The 2026 Formula One season hasn't even started yet, and we already have our first major controversy. Mercedes and Red Bull have found a loophole in the new engine regulations that could give them a significant advantage over everyone else. Ferrari, Honda, and Audi are furious. And now the FIA has dropped a hint about what might happen next. Let me break down everything we know about this situation and whether this trick will be banned. First, let's understand what Mercedes and Red Bull have actually done. The 2026 regulations set a compression ratio limit of 16.1. This is measured when the engine is static, meaning when it's not running and at room temperature. But here's where things get clever. Mercedes engineers found a way to increase that compression ratio to approximately 181 when the engine is actually operating on track. They achieved this through thermal expansion. When the engine heats up during operation, certain components expand. Mercedes designed their connecting rod, the part that links the piston to the crankshaft, to expand in a very specific way when hot. This expansion pushes the piston higher into the cylinder, effectively increasing the compression ratio beyond what the static tests measure. More compression means more power from each combustion cycle. Estimates suggest this trick delivers an extra 10 to 15 horsepower. That might not sound like much, but in Formula One, where races are decided by tenths of a second, that translates to roughly a quarter of a second per lap. Over a full race distance, that's a massive advantage that could be the difference between winning and finishing off the podium. Red Bull caught on to this idea through an engineer they hired from Mercedes. They've implemented something similar, although they're reportedly still playing catch-up to the team that invented the concept. This means Mercedes likely has the more refined version of the technology. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Mercedes didn't try to hide what they were doing. They approached the FIA from the very beginning to ensure their interpretation was within the regulations. They were completely transparent about their design. The FIA looked at it and essentially said it was legal because it doesn't violate the written rules. This is a crucial point. The regulations say the compression ratio must be 16.1 when measured. They don't specify that it must remain at 16.1 during operation. Mercedes read the rules, found a gap, and exploited it. That's Formula One in its purest form. It's what the best teams have always done, but not everyone sees it that way. Ferrari, Honda, and Audi are not happy. They've been lobbying the FIA to do something about it. Ferrari has even hinted at lodging a formal protest at the season opener in Melbourne. They believe this interpretation goes against the spirit of the regulations, even if it technically complies with the letter of the law. So, what is the FIA going to do about it? This is where we get to the most important part of this story. Journalist Giuliana Sarasuli has reported that the FIA has given her a hint about their intentions. Speaking on her YouTube channel, she said the governing body told her that someone read something in the regulations that wasn't what we wrote. That's a significant statement. The FIA is essentially admitting that Mercedes and Red Bull found an interpretation they didn't intend to allow. But here's the thing. Admitting that and actually banning it are two very different things. Sarasoli believes the loophole will eventually be banned, but not immediately. She explained the commercial reality that Formula One faces. Absolute dominance is very bad commercially for Formula One. She said today there is this notion that I want to win, but I want everyone else to win. Because if everyone wins, my piece of the pie will get even bigger. Let's increase the pie for everyone, because my piece of the pie will get bigger if that happens. This is the modern Formula One philosophy. The sport needs competitive racing to attract viewers, sponsors, and new fans. If Mercedes and their customer teams dominate the entire season because of this engine advantage, it's bad for business. Liberty Media, the commercial rights holder, won't be happy. The other manufacturers won't be happy. And eventually, the FIA will face pressure to level the playing field, but banning something mid-season is complicated. Mercedes and Red Bull designed their entire 2026 power units around this concept. You can't just tell them to change it overnight. The engines are already built. The cars are already designed around those engines. Any change would require significant redesign work that could take months. There's also the question of fairness. Mercedes played by the rules. They asked the FIA if their design was legal, and the FIA said yes. Banning it now would essentially punish them for being clever. That sets a dangerous precedent for future innovation. Rather than banning the compression ratio trick outright, the FIA might allow other manufacturers to implement similar solutions. Over time, everyone catches up and the advantage disappears. This approach maintains the integrity of the rules while still leveling the playing field eventually. Red Bull's technical director, Ben Hodgkinson, has been clear about his team's position. He says their car is completely legal and complies with all regulations. The loophole exists in the regulations, and it's there for all teams to exploit if they're clever enough to find it. The problem is that finding it and implementing it are two different things. Ferrari, Honda, and Audi didn't discover this interpretation until it was too late. Their 2006 engines are already designed and built around a different concept. They can't simply copy Mercedes overnight. It would take months, possibly an entire season, to redesign their power units to incorporate this technology. The compression ratio trick might be allowed in 2026, but banned from 2027 onwards. This gives Mercedes and Red Bull their advantage for one season while ensuring the playing field is level going forward. It's a compromise that satisfies no one completely, but avoids the legal nightmare of retroactively banning an approved design. The January 22nd meeting between the FIA and all engine manufacturers will be crucial. This is where the governing body will discuss the situation with all parties and potentially reveal their plans. We might get clarity on their intentions after that meeting. For now, Mercedes and Red Bull are in a strong position. They have a legal advantage that their rivals can't easily copy. Whether that advantage lasts the entire 2026 season or gets neutralized mid-year depends entirely on what the FIA decides to do next. One thing is certain, this controversy has added another layer of intrigue to what was already shaping up to be a fascinating season. The biggest regulation change in Formula One history is bringing drama before a single competitive lap has been completed. And that's exactly what makes this sport so compelling. The tension now escalates as the engineering arms race shifts from secret design rooms to the stark public reality of the test track. The Barcelona circuit becomes the first true courtroom, where lap times are the evidence, and performance gaps are the verdict. Every data point collected by rival teams will be scrutinized, not just for speed, but for the unique fingerprint of that thermal expansion trick, the specific power delivery curve, the engine's behavior under sustained load, the telltale signs of a compression ratio dancing far beyond 16.1. Ferrari's engineers will be hunched over monitors, their analysis fueling the legal briefs being prepared back in Maranello. This is no longer a theoretical loophole. It is a tangible force on the asphalt, and its very existence challenges the foundational principle of technical parity that the 2026 regulations were meant to enforce. The FIA finds itself in a paralyzing bind, a prisoner of its own processes and the precedent it inadvertently set with its initial approval. A mid-season ban, while perhaps commercially and competitively desirable, is a logistical and ethical quagmire. It would be an admission of the catastrophic regulatory failure, a destabilizing move that could lead to crippling lawsuits and a chilling effect on all future innovation. Teams would forever fear that any clever interpretation, even one greenlit by the governing body, could be ripped away by political pressure. Yet, allowing a season of predictable dominance risks alienating fans, sponsors, and the crucial new manufacturers like Audi, who entered the sport under a promise of a level playing field. The sport's commercial growth, so carefully nurtured, could stall. The question everyone is asking is simple. Will the FIA protect the clever teams who found the loophole? Or will they protect the sport's commercial interests by leveling the playing field? The answer to that question will define the 2026 season and potentially shape the future of Formula One innovation. What makes this situation even more interesting is the timing. The private tests in Barcelona start on January 26th, just days away. That's when we'll get our first real glimpse of how the cars perform on track. If Mercedes-powered cars are significantly faster than everyone else, the pressure on the FIA will intensify immediately. Ferrari will be watching closely. If they see a massive gap in performance, expect that protest to be filed before the first race in Melbourne. They won't wait to see if they can catch up. They'll want action immediately. For fans, this is actually exciting. We're witnessing Formula One at its most innovative and controversial. Teams pushing the boundaries of what's possible within the rules. Rivals fighting back through protests and lobbying. Whether this particular advantage survives the season remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, the 2026 season is going to be anything